Good afternoon to our viewers in the US and good evening to our viewers in Germany. My name is Nicole Menzenbach and I'm the Consul General of Germany to the New England States. It is a pleasure for me to welcome you here today to this very special event with two very special people. Luigi Toscano, German-Italian artist, and Rena Finder, one of the last living survivors of Schindler's List. This is a moving moment for me personally, as I vividly remember Luigi's exhibit on Boston Common in 2018. In his work, Luigi gives victims of the Holocaust a face and draws the viewers into their individual stories. We are honored to have Rena with us. She's depicted in Luigi's work and one of the most impressive people I have ever met in my life. She embodies for me an inspiring spirit of reconciliation. Thank you to the German-American Conference for deciding to include this important topic that is so close to my heart. Talking about Germany's past is essential to understanding the Germany of today. Luigi's personal involvement and his active participation in the work of remembrance have recently earned him the Order of Merit, the Bundesverdienstorden, of the Federal Republic of Germany. He has also been named a UNESCO Artist for Peace, the first time that a German and a photographer have ever been selected for this honor. Before the discussion starts, please take a moment to look at the following short video depicting the exhibition so you can get a feeling for the special atmosphere it created. I wish you a thoughtful discussion. Thank you.
You know what? I was taken back when I saw it, but I think it's a wonderful thing that he did to preserve our history from the survivors. I think it's a wonderful thing that he did.
I am looking at myself and I can't believe that's me. And I'm thinking of I would not be here if it was not of Oscar Schindler.
No, we must not forget about it. You know, our families, when they left, when they were taken to the guest chambers, their last word was, "Don't forget us."
It's not as much for us as for the future generation. They should know what happens when there's brutality in the world.
Ja, im Moment sind wir hier in Philly, in unserem Headquarter, und wir tun die Bilder aufbereiten, vorbereiten, neu bespannen und Vorbereitungen für Boston treffen. Esther, DC.
Der Straßenverlauf von Interstate 90 ist für Sicherheit erfolgt.
I survived because of Oskar Schindler with my mother. And all the rest of the family was wiped out. My mother had nobody left. 7 siblings and parents. My father and his 6 brothers, all the cousins, all the aunts. And I think how lucky we were.
With all that, what we went through during the war, and I'm here to be a witness to his history, it's important.
Luigi Toscano has traveled to many countries, meeting Holocaust survivors within Germany, Ukraine, Belarus, Russia, Israel, and the United States.
But they're there in their face and their name to remind us and future generations who claim that this never happened, that it happened, and that it will never happen again.
Thank you so much, all of you, for being here, and enjoy the exhibit later, and enjoy the rest of your time here with us today.
Well, I feel that these photos are very, very powerful.
Being the niece of a Holocaust survivor, it really touches me.
It's not that the survivors are now dead and that this is the past, it's still the present.
All wishes for Luigi, I think he's the best. I think he captured everybody so beautifully. I think Luigi is one of my top favorite photographers.
Wow. A very warm welcome also from my side to you, Rena, to Luigi, and of course to our audience. My name is Isabel Kleitsch. I'm the co-chair of this year's German-American conference, and I have the pleasure of guiding us through this last event of today. Luigi, let me start with you. We have seen you have apparently made it into the hearts of the Holocaust survivors. I'm sure they have also made it into your heart. Can you take us to a specific moment during the work at that project that you will never forget?
Yeah, good evening, Isabel. Good evening, all. Thank you so much that I can participate on your conference here. You know, Isabel, I can tell you so many stories what I have in my, and of course, for me was also a special moment to meet Rena, when most of the Holocaust survivors, I met them at home, and if I remember when I stand on the front of the door of Rena, I have only the information, Rena Finder, Holocaust survivor. And I remember that I was sitting in her kitchen and we drink a good coffee. And she started to talking with us. and there came a point that she tells me that she was with her mother on the Schindler's List, and that was a really special moment for me, and I will tell you another special moment, what happened in the past. I showed this exhibition also in Berlin, my first exhibition in Berlin, and I put two pictures side by side, and the one picture there was Horst Sommerfeld, and the other picture was Walter Frankenstein. And Walter lives in Stockholm in Sweden, and Horst Sommerfeld in Germany, And on this day, and you must know that Walter read only one German newspaper in Stockholm, a German newspaper. And in the opening of the exhibition, they came the press, and they made pictures, and also they take pictures from these two guys. They are stand by side, and and a day later, Walter calls me from Stockholm, and he said, Luigi, what you done? This is Horst, my old school friend, And after 80 years, they met together, And that was a really, really special moment for me, What's happened in my project,
Wow. So art actually crosses bridges in Europe and brings back old friendships. Wow, it's an incredible story. Rena, thank you so much for being with us today. We already saw you in the video, and you were saying that you couldn't believe it was you on the picture that you were looking at. Can you tell us how it was for you to be part of the project and to work with Luigi?
I have to tell you that I was thrilled to be there, and not just to meet Luigi, but to see what he was doing to help the past to live. One of the things that I worry most is that as we all grow old and there are fewer and fewer of us left, will anyone still remember about the Holocaust? Because the Holocaust should have been a lesson for the world, where people would have realized that it doesn't matter who you are, what color your skin is, where you come from. We are all the same in our hearts, and we should all look out for each other, that we should all stand up and not allow people to hurt each other. Who is going to do that when we are gone? And that's why I think that most of the survivors are the teachers. I have been talking to schools for almost 4 years, and I still get letters from some of the students who have heard me when they were maybe in the 4th grade. And that makes me hope that when my grandchildren grow up, and maybe my great-grandchildren, maybe the world will be a better place to live. Maybe we won't have the hate somebody because he's black or yellow or not white, whether their hair are too black. Maybe the time has come for people to open their hearts and just think of another person that could be me. And life will go on for all without the fear.
Those are very wise words. Thank you, Rena, for sharing them with us. You have kindly agreed to also share some of your life history with us. You were one of the survivors of Schindler's List. Can you tell us how was it to work for Oskar Schindler in those days?
Well, working for Oskar Schindler was a blessing. From the very beginning, when my mom and I were put on the list and taken to his factory where we were working, Oskar Schindler did not heed anyone. Oskar Schindler fed us. He pretended that he was very bad boss, but to us, especially young kids like I was at that time, probably about 13, 14, and he looked up for the children that they ate, and even on a night shift, we were taken to his office supposedly to clean, except he really didn't want us to clean. He wanted us to get under the desk to get some sleep. There is no words, except perhaps the movie about Oskar Schindler. That could say more than I can or any other human being, because it's so hard to imagine that. When you think of all the horror things that happened at that time, yet one man were able to save over 1,000 people, 1,500 people. Now, none of us would be alive if it wasn't for Oskar Schindler, because we were sent to Auschwitz when we were taken out of Poland. And somehow, Oskar Schindler was able to bribe the commander of Auschwitz to send his workers to him in a factory that he had in Czechoslovakia, and where he moved his people away from the SS that were killing, that were putting people on a train and sending them into fire or just shooting. People can't imagine that. And making a movie of such horror, it was very difficult thing to do. I know that Steve was so upset when he went to shot the movie. He took his whole family to Krakow to rented an apartment because he didn't want to be by himself. He wanted his family with. So it's a miracle that the movie was made, and it's a miracle that still now, every 15 years, it's still shown. And I am shocked when I hear of people who never heard about it. They didn't know. If I would ask somebody that I just meet, sort of, and ask if they know the book, they don't know about the book, they don't know about the movie, they don't know nothing. So I think that the survivors who are still alive, and there are very few of us left, we try very hard to talk about the movie, talk about Oskar Schindler, and talk about the fact that maybe, just maybe, hopefully, the children nowadays will learn how to be good people and accept the fact that they are responsible, and it is up to them to stand up, to help. Don't say, I'm not interested, I don't want to do that. No, you say, yes, I want to help.
Yeah, that is already, I think, one very strong piece of advice for us, the younger generation who are now going into the world and bear the responsibility of remembering and commemorating. And we have touched upon it briefly before. How can we continue to remember and commemorate without the strong presence and the voices of survivors like you going forward?
Well, you have to learn. You have to listen to the teachers in school. You have to read books that were written about the Holocaust. And teach. You have to keep teaching and make people aware people are not aware. I was surprised a couple of weeks ago. There was I had some problem, and a young, very intelligent man came to help me. He was a physical therapist, and I have a picture of Steven Spielberg who walked right by it, and I showed it to him, and I said, "You know who that is?" And he was looking at the picture. He said, "No, I don't." I was very upset that somebody doesn't recognize Steven Spielberg. We have to teach and teach and teach and face it. You have to face the fact that so many people are suffering because other people are killing them. It is up to the growing now, the new generation. They have to learn. And we who are still alive try to do it as long as we can. Unfortunately, there are very few left.
Yeah, and we are fortunate to have you here to hear more from you and also from Luigi, of course. But let me ask you one more question before I hand it over to Luigi again. You have experienced unimaginable pain and loss during your life. You have lost most of your family except for your mother. Is there a way to forgive?
I don't think that you can forget the people you loved. And I don't think that you can forgive those who killed them. The pain in your heart grows with you as long as you are still alive. I will never forget my father. I can never forget my aunts, my uncles. I can only be still grateful, of course, forever to Steven Spielberg for making that movie that I am with my mother, who was with my mother. My mother, of course, passed away already. So, looking forward to the future, hoping that people have learned how to behave and what they really need to do.
Thank you. Luigi, Rena already pointed out the importance of keeping history alive also in the present. How did the idea for this project come up and why did you start it?
You know, when I started this project 7 years ago, there was many things around me that was not okay. You know, you know what's happened in the world. You know what's happened in Europe. You know, the right parties are going higher and higher, and I was sitting in my office and I'm thinking, what can I do? That what's there going on, you know? And I decide to write my concept and to travel around the world and to meet Holocaust survivors, you know, and bring their pictures in the public space. And when I start this project with my first exhibition, I feel that they are so impactful, you know, for the visitors, that when they see the pictures, you know, they ask, you know, and this is an important thing, you know, when the people starting ask, where are these people, you know, and yeah, and that was the beginning of my project, and that was my part to do against anti-Semitism, racism, and any kind of hatred, you know.
Great, and we are talking here about an arts project, and we actually feature some of your photography in our soul workspace. So for everyone in our audience who hasn't checked out Luigi's photography yet, I highly recommend to enter the SOWORK space and go to our photo gallery and see 50 portraits that Luigi took of the survivors and read about their stories. It's incredibly impressive. I was really taken back when I looked at the pictures first, Luigi. So great compliments from my side. So you are a photographer, and do you want to also share a bit of your artistic approach to this project with us? You portrait all the survivors in a very specific and particular way. Can you walk us through some of your artistic thoughts behind that?
I started this project 7 years ago, and you can imagine I was the only one that they have this ideas, you know, and nobody was, you know, nobody believed in me, and nobody believed me in the project, you know, and yeah, but I start to travel in different cities of the world, and I met survivors, and you know, the thing is that I'm visit the survivors not as a photographer or as an you know, as an artist. I visit them as a human, you know, and that was important for me, you know, that on the first that I know the people, you know, that I heard his stories, and after that I take the pictures, you know, and there was not, you know, there was in the end of our conversation, I decide to make the picture, you know, and on this moment when I take the picture, that was really special for me, you know, and also for the survivor, and yeah, that is.
Thank you. Rena, we already heard that your picture and your first encounter was in your kitchen. And you actually live in the US, very close to where we are here, very close to Boston. You have chosen to live in the US your whole life. How come? Why this decision to live in the US? And can you tell us a bit about your experience here?
Of course, after the war, there was no place for us to go. We were still not wanted. We were still Jewish. And nobody was really ready to take care of us, especially the British, who did not allow the Jews to go to Israel because they were friends with the Arabs. It was very, very difficult. And we had friends who had an uncle, Uncle Harry, in the United States, in Massachusetts, in Peabody. And he sent us, for my husband, Mark, and myself, he sent us papers to come to United States. And we came to United States, and we started a life. If it wasn't for Uncle Harry, I don't know where we would have gone. Somebody who was not very rich, but he was rich with love and goodness. And we were able to have a good life.
You say you were able to have a good life in the United States?
Yes. We were free. We could choose a job if it was offered, rent an apartment. Nobody was against us. And life became sort of normal. I was also very lucky, which is very important, going back to Steven Spielberg and Oskar Schindler. I survived with my mother. And while she remarried after the war, because of course my father did not survive. She came to United States with her husband, whom I knew, and she was able to come to United States because we were able to send her papers. So we were very lucky.
In many respects, yeah, lucky. But then also, on the other hand, you lived through an unimaginable time in all of our history that we, as the young generation, I guess, can't really grasp looking back. So maybe to come back to your advice for our generation, you were already saying we should continue to learn and continue to listen to the voices of the survivors, and we should continue teaching about the Holocaust. So maybe there is something else that you want to share with us.
Well, I belong to an organization that says Facing History and Ourselves, and in that place, the survivors, if they want to, they are sent to different schools to talk. I have been talking to schools for 4 years, and some of the students I had when they were in fourth grade. 4 years later, I still get letters from them. They still remember. My daughter reminds me of a very important ending to any conversation I have. Be an upstander. Never be just a bystander.
I think that is a very important advice. And Luigi, I know that you have already taken up Rena's advice and you are touring with your photo exhibition several schools in Germany. Can you tell us more about that project?
Yeah, in the last years, I showed this exhibition in really big cities. For example, in New York, on the headquarters of the United Nations, or in Washington on the reflecting pool. And 1.5 year again. Sorry.
1.5 years ago.
1.5 years ago, I start with my colleague here, Max. We decide to grounding an NGO, and we start to bring my exhibition in a smaller format on the schoolyards in Germany. You must know that 50% are our younger generation here in Germany. They don't nothing about the Holocaust, And together with Max, we decide to do something against that. We have the responsibility to learn from our history, And on this part, I remember from a Holocaust survivor, Susan. She tells me in the beginning of the project, if you forget the past, we are doomed to repeat it, And this is my slogan also for the younger generation, And we have a beautiful experience with this young people, We work. Max, he create an education program for these kids, And it is so beautiful to see when kids are asking, when we set up the exhibition. I remember the first schoolyard, and they came school kids to us, and they asked us, where are these people, And we said that are Holocaust survivors, And that was so beautiful that they start to ask us to asking questions, And I think this is one of the key, that younger people starting to asking what's happened, And then also it's so important to talk with them, That is the really great experience what we've done in the last 1.5 years, you know.
I was about to ask Rena, but she's having a little glass of water, well deserved, I would say. You've already spent almost 40 minutes with us, and I imagine it's quite exhausting for you. But if you allow me to come back to you, Rena, you also told your story in many schools, as we have heard, and you have probably received a lot of questions from interested students there. And I guess most of those questions were regarding your past, the time that you lived through the Nazi regime. And maybe you can tell us a bit how it was like to live in the Polish ghetto, to grow up there, and to live through those times.
While you're talking about the most horrible time in anybody's life, or even I think maybe history, where innocent people were taken out of their homes, put into a ghetto, which was part of a town where the Germans built a wall around, and had to work for Germans who were constantly killing people, shooting little children, older people. It was hell, and the world stood by and did nothing. And that something in the future should never, ever happen again. I know I won't be around to see any future. Getting older has its good things, but the people who are still around and the younger people who are growing, they have to know what had happened, and if they don't watch out, it can happen again.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Luigi, the theme of this year's German-American conference is the future of problem solving. With your project, you looked into the past. What does it teach us for solving the problems of tomorrow, in your view?
You remember what I say, if you forget the past, we are doomed to repeat it, you know? And I think I don't stop to show these pictures in the world, and we can, together, we can change the world, you know? Not my exhibition, not other art project, together. And this is my keyword, you know, what I can say, you know. And I think this is so important on the one hand to remember where we come from, you know, and the other hand to see where we are going, you know. And I would like to going in a beautiful future, you know. I will, you know, I have 2 beautiful daughters, you know, and I would like to that this 2 girls, you know, live in a free world, that they can share his mind, then can share his religion, and so on, you know. And that what I do, you know, for now. And I think this is important for us.
Definitely. And I see that there are a few questions in the chat directed at Rena, but I heard, Rena, that you are tired after sharing so much with us, and I think you have contributed incredibly to this panel, and we are very, very grateful. And I would just give you the floor for any last words that you want to direct at us.
Well, it was a pleasure to meeting you and be able to talk about so many different things. So I'm very happy and grateful for being invited to share it with you.
Thank you so much, Rena. And we feel really honored that you agreed to share your story with us and to be here with us for this event. Thank you so much. Luigi, there is a question in the chat for you. Do you have any other similar projects planned to keep the memory of the Holocaust alive?
Yeah, I actually, at the moment, I work on my second documentary film about two really strong women. One of the women are called Anna Strichokova. She lives in Kiev in Ukraine, and she survived also the Holocaust. She was a victim of Dr. Mengele, you know. And on the other hand, there's a young woman. They work as a German woman. They work on the Holocaust Museum in Auschwitz. And these two women have a story together, you know. And I would like to tell the story from these two women, you know. And this is one of the things what I will do to keeping alive the memory. And also I going on with the project on the schoolyards. And also what I do is to continue my project. In November, I was invited from the French Senate to come and to take pictures from the last survivors in French. And with this picture, we made also a big exhibition in Paris next year. And there are so many survivors. For example, 1 week ago, I was in Munich, in Germany, in the south. I was visiting one of the last Holocaust survivors. They're playing in the orchestra in Auschwitz, in the I forgot the name. Yeah, there was ich sag's auf Deutsch, im letzten im Orchester, im Auschwitz-Orchester hat sie gespielt. Kannst du es übersetzen vielleicht, Isabel, bitte?
Sure, yeah. She was playing in the last orchestra of Auschwitz.
Yeah, and she is 100 years old now, you know. And also I have the honor to visit next week also a beautiful lady, also 100 years old, Mrs. Stepanek. And yeah, my calendar are full, you know.
Yeah, many incredible people that you are meeting, and we look forward to watch your documentary. We always have a movie series together with the German American Conference, so let's see whether we can feature it in the upcoming conference. I think that would be great. Mm-hmm. And in the meanwhile, we are also trying to get your photographs up here to the Harvard campus. Let's see if that works out, but we will be in touch on that project. And yeah, I think with that, I'm handing over to my colleague Jonas, who's actually with Rena, to say a couple of last words for today. Thank you very much from my side for being with us. And at least for me, I learned a lot, Rena. Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts with us. It was an honor. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, dear Rena, speaking for the German American Conference team, and especially for my generation, we are feeling so grateful and honored to have been able to hear your story. It's such a treasure you're holding. And thank you also, Luigi, for making it happen with your amazing and unique Holocaust memorial. In a world which is so globalized and connected with more and more international cultures and diverse societies, it is crucial to remember to speak out loudly against all forms of discrimination, such as racism, anti-Semitism, to name a few. Be an upstander, never bystander. This is what we've learned today from you, Rena. And let us treat each other with tolerance, openness, and ultimately always with respect and love. If you want to hear more about Rena's story, we can also recommend you this book, which has just been translated even into German and will soon be published. The name is a girl on Schindler's List. So, coming to the end, we are hoping that you've enjoyed the conference so far, and we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow with the completely different topics. It will start at 9 a.m. Boston time, 3 p.m. German time, with the event Transformation, Sustainability, and New Opportunities in the Automotive Industry. So, thank you so much for joining this event. Thank you again so much, Rena and Luigi.
Thank you.
And all the best.
Thank you for everything you've been doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Rena.